Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Michael Music. I decided after graduating college that I wanted to study this book, Think and Grow Rich, on live and really see just the contents of it, and hopefully be able to not just teach it, but at least share it and see if I get any new insights on this book. So that's how I got started reading this book. And yeah, it's some good stuff. Every time I do read it, I feel like it makes me want to go back to it more and more. So that's why I'm here sharing it with you guys today. So today we're going to be reading on chapter 15, How to Outwit the Six Ghosts of Fear. And we already read a little bit of this chapter, what was it, yesterday. And today we're going to focus strictly on the fear of poverty. And I feel like this is a fear that I've had, and just identifying it is a huge help in making a start for the six fears. So this is one out of six fears, and yeah, let's get right into it. So the fear of poverty. There can be no compromise between poverty and riches. The two roads that lead to poverty and riches travel in opposite directions. If you want riches, you must refuse to accept any circumstance that leads toward poverty. And remember, the word riches is here used in its broadest sense, meaning financial, spiritual, mental, and material estates. The starting point of the path that leads to riches is desire. In chapter 2, you receive full instruction for the proper use of desire. In this chapter, on fear, you have complete instructions for preparing your mind to make practical use of desire. Here then is the place to give yourself a challenge, which will definitely determine how much of this philosophy you have absorbed. Here is the point at which you can turn profit and foretell accurately what the future holds in store for you. If, after reading this chapter, you are willing to accept poverty, you may as well make up your mind to receive poverty. This is one decision you cannot avoid. If you demand riches, determine what form and how much will be required to satisfy you. You know the road that leads to riches. You know the road that leads to riches. You have been given a roadmap, which, if followed, will keep you on that road. So when I think of roadmap, what does that mean to you in terms of relating this book? Why would he call this book a roadmap towards riches? It's interesting. I feel like each of the 13 principles help keep you in this certain state of mind known as the money consciousness. And that's kind of the right path or right frequency you want to be on. Okay, so you know the road that leads to riches. You have been given a roadmap. If followed, will keep you on that road. If you neglect to make the start or stop before you arrive, no one will be to blame but you. The responsibility is yours. No alibi will save you from accepting the responsibility if you now fail or refuse to demand riches of life, because the acceptance calls for but one thing. Incidentally, the only thing you can control, and that is a state of mind. Okay, I I gotta just say, I think he just said the secret right there. I'll read that again. No alibi will save you from accepting the responsibility if you now fail or refuse to demand riches of life, because the acceptance calls for but one thing. Incidentally, the only thing you can control, and that is a state of mind. A state of mind is something that one assumes. It cannot be purchased, it must be created. It cannot be purchased, it must be created. Fear of poverty is a state of mind and nothing else, but it is sufficient to destroy one's chances of achievement in any undertaking, a truth which became painfully evident during the Depression. Okay, that's super interesting. I feel like Napoleon Hill truly just said the secret right there. It's a state of mind, right? And you cannot purchase this state of mind. It must be assumed, I believe is the word. It must be created, right? So these 13 principles ahead of this extra chapter are all intended to go with one another to create this state of mind that Napoleon Hill refers to as money consciousness. Okay, now we're going to read more upon the fear of poverty. This fear paralyzes the faculty of reason, destroys the faculty of imagination, kills off self reliance, undermines enthusiasm, discourages initiative, leads to uncertainty of purpose, encourages procrastination, wipes out enthusiasm, and makes self control an impossibility. It takes the charm from one's personality, destroys the possibility of accurate thinking, diverts concentration of effort. It masters persistence, turns the willpower into nothingness, destroys ambition, beclouds the memory, and invites failure in every conceivable form. It kills love and assassinates the first inner emotion, the finer emotions of the heart. It discourages friendship and invites disaster in 100 forms, leads to sleeplessness, misery, and unhappiness. And all this despite the obvious truth that we live in a world of overabundance of everything the heart could desire, with nothing standing between us and our desires except lack of a definite purpose. Very interesting stuff. So Napoleon Hill says that the truth is we live in a world of overabundance and everything the heart could desire. The only thing that we lack is a definite purpose. So, what is your definite purpose in life? A great way to think about this is when you are about to die on your deathbed and you're thinking back and imagining your life, and you want to actually have a conversation with yourself on the day of his or her deathbed and ask them, like, what did you truly want to accomplish most in this lifetime, if nothing else mattered, right? If you knew 100% you could do it, and have that conversation with yourself and see what you come up with. That's one way of thinking about finding out your definite purpose. I know there's many other ways, and Napoleon Hill writes about the definite purpose, a full chapter on it in his master course, which is another book written by him. So I'd highly suggest reading that multiple times. And another thing that could very well help would be writing on a piece of paper, what do I love to do every single day? And just working with that question, expanding that question to what do I truly want to do every day? And that could be a great start to finding your definite purpose. So, moving forward, the fear of poverty is, without doubt, the most destructive of the six basic fears. It has been placed at the head of the list because it is the most difficult to master. Considerable courage is required to state the truth about the origin of this fear, and still greater courage to accept the truth after it has been stated. The fear of poverty grew out of man's inherited tendency to prey upon his fellow man economically. Nearly all animals lower than man are motivated by instinct, but their capacity to think is limited. Therefore, they prey upon one another physically. Man, with his superior sense of intuition, with the capacity to think and to reason, does not eat his fellow man bodily. He gets more satisfaction of eating him financially. Man is so avaricious that every conceivable law has been passed to safeguard him from his fellow man. Of all the ages of the world of which we know anything, of all the ages of the world of which we know anything, the age in which we live seems to be one that is outstanding because of man's money madness. A man is considered less than the dust of earth unless he can display a fat bank account. But if he has money, never mind how he acquired it, he is a king or a big shot. He is above the law. He rules in politics. He dominates in business, and the whole world about him bows in respect when he passes. Nothing brings man so much suffering and humility as poverty. Only those who have experienced poverty understand the full meaning of this. It is no wonder that man fears poverty. Through a long line of inherited experiences, man has learned for sure that some men cannot be trusted where matters of money and earthly possessions are concerned. This is a rather stinging indictment The worst part of it being that it is true. The majority of marriages are motivated by the wealth possessed by one or both of the contracting parties. It is no wonder, therefore, that the divorce courts are busy. So eager is man to possess wealth that he will acquire it in whatever manner he can, through legal methods if possible, through other methods if necessary or expedient. So self analysis may disclose weaknesses which one does not like to acknowledge. This form of examination is essential to all who demand of life more than mediocrity and poverty. Remember, as you check yourself point by point, that you are both the court and the jury, the prosecuting attorney and the attorney for defense, and that you are the plaintiff and the defendant. Also, that you are on trial. Face the facts squarely, ask yourself definite questions, and demand direct replies. When the examination is over, you will know more about yourself. If you do not feel that you can be an impartial judge in this examination, call upon someone who knows you well to serve as judge while you cross examine yourself. You are after the truth. Get it no matter at what cost, even though it may temporarily embarrass you. Okay, what is Napoleon Hill saying here? A big section of page 331 was just about self-analysis, and he truly talks about the importance of just getting the answers that you need to require. So later on in the book, we got plenty of questions that we can go over and talk about these questions, and they're really meant for you to just dive deep, find out the truth, even if it hurts to hear it at first. I know my first time asking these questions, it took me all day to truly ask them, and it did hurt to uncover some things. So there's definitely importance in self-analysis, and that's one thing this book will help you out with in a different video. Okay, the majority of people, if asked what they fear most, will reply, "I fear nothing." The reply would be inaccurate because few people realize that they are bound, handicapped, whipped spiritually and physically through some form of fear. So subtle and deeply seated is the emotion of fear that one may go through life burdened with it, never recognizing its presence. Only a courageous analysis will disclose the presence of this universal enemy. When you begin such an analysis, search deeply in your character. Here's a list of symptoms for which you should look. Okay, on page 332, we're now going to dive into potential symptoms, which is the effects of the fear of poverty. And I really want you guys to pay close attention, see if any of these symptoms hit you in a way, and we'll talk about that further. So symptoms of fear of poverty: indifference, commonly expressed through lack of ambition, willingness to tolerate poverty, acceptance of whatever compensation life may offer without protest, mental and physical laziness, lack of initiative, imagination, enthusiasm, and self-control. So that was indifference. Next is indecision, the habit of permitting others to do one's thinking, staying on the fence. So do you typically not decide fast enough in some situations? 3, doubt, generally expressed through alibis and excuses designed to cover up, explain away, or apologize for one's failures, sometimes expressed in the form of envy of those who are successful or by criticizing them. Next, worry, usually is expressed by finding fault with others, a tendency to spend beyond one's income, neglect of personal appearance, scowling and frowning, intemperance in the use of alcohol, alcoholic drink, sometimes through the use of narcotics, nervousness, lack of poise, self-consciousness, and lack of reliance. So that is worry. Next, over caution. So is over caution a symptom? And let me explain. The habit of looking for the negative side of every circumstance, thinking and talking of possible failure instead of concentrating upon the means of succeeding, knowing all the roads to disaster, but never searching for the plans to avoid failure, waiting for the right time to begin putting ideas and plans into action until the waiting becomes a permanent habit, remembering those who have failed and forgetting those who have succeeded, seeing the hole in the donut, but overlooking the donut. Pessimism leading to indigestion, poor elimination, auto intoxication, bad breath, and bad disposition. So that was over caution. Next, procrastination. The habit of putting off until tomorrow that which should have been done last year, spending enough time in creating alibis and excuses to have done the job. This symptom is closely related to overcaution, doubt, and worry. Refusal to accept responsibility when it can be avoided. Willingness to compromise rather than put up a stiff fight. Compromising with difficulties instead of harnessing and using them as a stepping stones to advancement. Bargaining with life for a penny instead of demanding prosperity, opulence, riches, contentment, and happiness. Remember, we're still talking about procrastination. Planning what to do if and when overtaken by failure, instead of burning all bridges and making retreat impossible. Okay, so Napoleon Hill mentions this idea of burning all the bridges, and that's interesting. That means you, according to Napoleon Hill's words, that he wants you to go all in, if unless you want to experience fear of poverty more. That hits differently. Okay. Weakness of and total lack of self confidence, definiteness of purpose, self control, initiative, enthusiasm, ambition, thrift, and sound reasoning ability. Expecting poverty instead of demanding riches. Association with those who accept poverty instead of seeking the company of those who demand and receive riches. Okay, next section. We're still on the fear of poverty, and we're going through just more stories about it. So we're on page 334. The heading is Money Talks, and we're going to read 3 more pages, and then we're going to wrap this one up. Some will ask, why did you write a book about money? Why measure riches in dollars alone? Some will believe, and rightly so, that there are other forms of riches more desirable than money. Yes, there are riches which cannot be measured in terms of dollars, but there are millions of people who will say, give me all the money I need, and I will find everything else I want. The major reason I wrote this book on how to get money is the fact that the world has but lately passed through an experience that left millions of men and women paralyzed with the fear of poverty. What this sort of fear does to one was well described by Westbrook Pegler in the New York Telegram, viz., quote, money is only clamshells or metal discs or scraps of paper. They are treasures of the heart and soul which money cannot buy. But most people, being broke, are unable to keep this in mind and sustain their spirits. When a man is down and out and on the street, unable to get any job at all, something happens to his spirit which cannot be observed, which can be observed in the droop of his shoulders, the set of his hat, his walk, and his gaze. He cannot escape a feeling of inferiority among people with regular employment, even though he knows they are definitely not his equals in character, intelligence, or ability. These people, even his friends, feel, on the other hand, a sense of superiority and regard him perhaps unconsciously as a casualty. He may borrow from time for a time, but not enough to carry on his accustomed way, and he cannot continue to borrow very long. But borrowing in itself, when a man is borrowing merely to live, is a depressing experience, and the money lacks the power of earned money to revive his spirits. Of course, none of this applies to bums or habitual ne'er-do-wells, but only to men of normal ambitions and self-respect. So why did Napoleon Hill write a book on earning money? When this book was released, it was in the time of the Great Depression. And there's a great Kanye West quote that goes along with this. It's like, money isn't everything, not having it is. And when you don't got money, when you are broke, out of a job, and don't know how you're going to make ends meet, all you can think about, matter of fact, I think science has proven that 80% of your thoughts are about money. So keep that in mind, that when you are living in a poverty state of mind, you're basically, that state of mind is almost taking up the entire part of your consciousness. It's about 80%. And then I remember hearing from somewhere else, don't quote me on the source, but somewhere else I heard that 12% of your thoughts are in comparison. So that's like 80% plus 12%. That's 92% of your thoughts are thoughts of comparing yourself to others and worrying about money. Imagine that. That's definitely, regardless of who you are, not a life you truly want to live. Okay. Page 335, middle of the page. Woman concealed despair. Women in the same predicament must be different. We somehow do not think of women at all in considering the down and outers. They are scarce in the breadlines. They rarely are seen begging on the streets, and they are not recognizable in crowds by the same plain signs which identify busset men. Of course, I do not mean the shuffling hags of the city streets who are the opposite number of the confirmed male bums. I mean reasonably young, decent, and intelligent women. There must be many of them, but their despair is not apparent. Maybe they kill themselves. When a man is down and out, he has time on his hands for brooding. He may travel miles to see a man about a job and discover that the job is filled, or that it is one of those jobs with no base pay but only a commission on the sale of some useless knickknack which nobody would buy except out of pity. Turning that down, he finds himself back on the street with nowhere to go but just anywhere. So he walks and walks. He gazes into store windows at luxuries which are not for him, and feels inferior and gives way to people who stop to look with an active interest. He wanders into the railroad station or puts himself down in the library to ease his legs and soak up a little heat, but that isn't looking for a job. So he gets going again. He may not know it, but his aimless would give him away, even if the very lines of his figure did not. He may be well dressed in the clothes left over from the days when he had a steady job, but the clothes cannot disguise the droop. All right, middle of the page of 336. Money makes a difference. He sees thousands of other people, bookkeepers or clerks or chemists or wagon hands, busy at their work, and envies them from the bottom of his soul. They have their independence, their self respect, and manhood, and he simply cannot convince himself that he is a good man, too. Though he argue it out and arrive at a favorable verdict hour after hour. It is just money which makes the difference in him. With a little money, he would be himself again. Some employers take the most shocking advantage of people who are down and out. The agencies hang out little colored cards offering miserable wages to busset men. $12 a week, $15 a week, a $17 a week job is a plum, and anyone with $25 a week to offer does not hang the job in front of an agency of a colored card. I have a want ad clipped from a local paper demanding a clerk, a good clean penman, to take telephone orders for a sandwich shop from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for $8 a month. Not $8 a week, but $8 a month. The ad says also, state religion. Can you imagine the brutal effrontery of anyone who demands a good, clean penman for 11 cents an hour, inquiring into the victim's religion? But this is what busted people are often offered. That is the end of fear of poverty. Okay, so remember, that fear of poverty is the first one that we read today, right? It's the head of the list, according to Napoleon Hill. I want to ask you something I learned that we can start doing is write down on a piece of paper, right in the top of this paper, fear of poverty in all capitals. And below it, you can write, after learning about the fear of poverty, this is what I'm going to do with this knowledge. And then put like maybe a bullet list of what you can do now knowing the fear of poverty. Maybe this can include just identifying that you have it, identifying what areas of your life it is ruining. This fear is a state of mind to keep in mind. So remember that the secret in Think and Grow Rich is to develop the money consciousness state of mind. And it really does start with a burning desire or a definite purpose. So keep working, I guess, on your state of mind. And yeah, let me know below what you learn, what you like. I definitely like learning about the fear of poverty, knowing that this is just a negative state of mind and that I shouldn't let this control 80% of my thoughts. And so I definitely think it was interesting to identify this fear and go from there. Okay, yeah. So thank you guys and ladies for watching. This was Think and Grow Rich with Michael Music. And until we meet again in time and space, bye for now.